It's time for the Breakaway, presented by Frontier Communications.
Caleb, when I was preparing for this segment, I'm a handwriter. I write everything down, my notes, when I'm doing research, and I remember when we spoke in Tucson 2 years ago, preseason, you told me that you handwrite every training session. Is that still true today?
Yeah, I'm old school. I like to write stuff down. You know, I have my book that I collect notes, and then I have my training sessions as well that I handwrite. And then we have obviously a digital thing that Cam uses to store it, because I'm again old school, so I'm not the best on the computer. But I think again, as coaches, we're collectors. You know, you can call us hoarders. You know, we hoard stuff over the years to just be able to look back on and maybe make a mental note of.
So how often do you look back at old training sessions?
Not as much as you think. You know, you look back in the season for sure. You know, I've looked back at a lot of my time, you know, in MLS. You know, but like I said, I have a full, basically desk full of my old kind of black books that I've written everything on. I've got 18 years of notes.
Wow.
So maybe one day, you know, my kids will, or, you know, maybe someday when I'm old and gray and retired, I'll look back on some of those things. It'll be kind of cool.
When did you get your first black book?
Geez, when I first started coaching, you know, so 18 years ago, when I got into this crazy business, Jerry Yeagley, you know, obviously I started collecting things, collecting notes, you know, stealing ideas, and that's what it's about. You know, it's about knowing who you are, having your own vision, your own philosophy, but you have to steal ideas and collect things, and you know, you have to be aware of what worked and what didn't work. I think that's a real key. So I think it's important to take notes and reflect on the past.
Do you think most coaches are as aware as you are at the importance of doing that, of taking notes, taking little bits and reflecting on it?
I think so. I mean, everybody has their different way of doing stuff. You know, we're all creatures of habits. You know, so some guys I think take notes more than others. You see some coaches in game will take more notes than others. Some are, like you said, more on the computer, more visual. But I like to write stuff down, and that's just my way of doing it.
Did you ever do that as a player as well? Would you take notes?
No, I didn't. You know, what's interesting is I wish I had. You know, when I was a player, I wish I had written stuff down. And that's typical, because I've talked to a lot of players who have become coaches. They all say the same thing. You know, even though mentally they were making kind of notes and thinking they might end out one day being a coach, very few players, you know, actually take notes. And I would say that if you're probably taking notes, you're probably done being a player.
Right, you're already thinking that way.
You're ready to be a coach.
So if you looked back at or maybe you have recently, but the very first session you ever planned for the Portland Timbers, what would you see? Would it be very different from a session today? How much change is there in you? Yeah,
there'd definitely be some differences, because I think we evolve. We have to, because the game evolves always, and our teams evolve. Our team's different, our league's different, and the game's always different. But you can't, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's always going to be staple things that I believe in, and things that I do in training that I never phase out, in a way of looking at, you know, how I put my team together and what system, and, you know, certain philosophies. But I think as time goes on, you become more and more clear and convinced of the way to do it. And I think when you're looking at the top coaches, the guys that are, you know, 60 and been in this a long time, they know what they want, and there's no confusion and there's no debate. They've learned over time this is for them what works, and this is how they do it. And, you know, I'm starting to get to that point, you know, but at the same time, you don't want to be stubborn either, and you do have to evolve with the game and look for new approaches and new ways of doing things.
I wanted to ask you, how do you continue to evolve as a head coach? What are some of the things you find that you learn the most from and get you to the next level?
It's a good question. It's a challenge, you know, when you've been a head coach. You know, I've been a head coach now for 12 years. You know, you're not the one sitting back watching someone work as much. You know, so it's more difficult. In an MLS season, you have 11 months and you have a couple weeks off. You can't go and study like I used to at Akron every single spring. 2 years ago when I went to England and watched Chelsea work, that was in Tottenham, that was a really good. So I think you got to find, you know, ways to get out and watch other coaches work, because you have to stay stimulated. And I think the other thing you need to do is delegate and continue to learn from your assistants, who are hopefully bringing new ideas into the club.
Awesome. Well, Caleb, thank you so much for your time today coming on Timbers in 30. We're looking forward to seeing you guys in Montreal this weekend.
Thank you.